the visionary really shouldn't get down in the weeds. So that's why my operations manager is very strong, and I don't get involved in a lot of people things unless something really needs to move or something needs to happen. I'm in charge of financial and marketing. So I actually spend some time with the accountants. I spend some time making sure that accounts are up to date. The beautiful thing about EOS is that it's delegate to elevate, right? And so things that I used to spend quite a bit of my time on, we found other people that do those things. Most of my role is behind the scenes. I mean, I make it to the offices on a regular basis, but I don't spend tons and tons of time there. My family, we travel a lot, so I'll take 2 to 3 week vacations multiple times a year. I've got a lot of time freedom that I never had when I was at the chair, and I think that's why, when people say I want to do what you do, I think that's what they're talking about. People are looking for time freedom and money freedom and all of that. It's good times.
Hi, David here. Well, today I have a great conversation to share with you with Dr. Steffany Mohan. Dr. Mohan, many of you may know of her. She is quite a contributor to the dental audience, to all of us as colleagues, as practice owners. She has a great story, which I don't need to give you now because we're going to go through her story. But she essentially elevated from a associate doctor back in the 90s after she graduated from school, and then elevated herself into multiple practices, really as a CEO owner. She does no clinical dentistry at all today. But going from individual practice, associate individual practice to multiple practices, as we all know, and I certainly appreciate, is a lot of hard work. It has to be done with a lot of intentionality, and it's one thing to do one practice well, but to do multiple and actually have it be profitable and not just wear you out is another. We had a lot of great conversations, and I think you'll find this very instrumental to you no matter where you are in your career path, whether you are younger in career and wanting to stay solo, which is essentially what I did over the years, or looking and thinking that maybe growing bigger is better. There's not a right or wrong here, but understanding what it takes and who you are, I think, is what makes the difference. I know you'll enjoy this conversation with Dr. Steffany Mohan. Well, Steffany, so great to have you today. I have been looking forward to really digging into how you kind of developed as a practice owner and really into an entrepreneurial role as really more of a CEO. And the reason I'm interested is because there's very few of us, and I say us because I think everybody who is in business or private practice, professional practice, and you'll go down that road and become an owner, which not everybody wants to do, but enough of us have done that over the years. You want to be an owner, and that's like your first step. It's like, okay, I've acquired, I built, start from scratch, whatever, my first practice, and now I'm in the game. And of course, there's all those things that we never learned in school. Somehow they don't teach us all the business side. So, we start learning as we go and making the mistakes and finding people to help mentor us and coach us and take courses in management as we're taking our CE and all the things everybody knows I'm talking about right now that goes along with ownership. But in my opinion, there's very few of us who actually go to multiple practices. I mean, for me, it's even a stretch to think about a secondary practice. People talk about, well, I tried a satellite practice and it was just, I pulled my hair out because, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it happen. And yet, we're going to go over your numbers here a little bit, but you have I believe, 6 practices are they all within Des Moines area or?
Yeah, it's Central Iowa, right?
Yeah, Central Iowa.
Yeah.
So you got 6 now. I want to go back and talk about how you got to 6.
Yeah.
But when I read some of the stats, and these are probably relatively current, but it doesn't matter because it still blows my mind. You have 9 or 10 different associates, 50 staff members, and I don't remember how many hygienists, but I'm thinking, okay, I had like 8 staff members and 2 hygienists and an associate doctor, and I wanted to pull my hair out some days.
Yeah, well, you do, right?
And so let's go back in time. You graduated from University of Iowa in 1996.
Yep.
Now, how did you hit the ground running? What happened next after graduation there?
So I had a pretty quick associateship, about 2.5 years, maybe almost 3 years. And then, I love to tell this story because it's really funny. And I still keep in touch with one of the guys that I worked for when I was an associate. But my husband and I wanted to start a family. And so I showed up one day and I was like, hey, I'm expecting. And they're like, oh, that's terrible news. And they were serious. I mean, it's just like that. Yeah. And so, and like, I like to think of myself as sort of the first, like, big wave of women dentists, right? I mean, like, I'm kind of like, where my class was the third women, and, there were quite a few of us, like, right around that same time.
Yeah.
But, like, we're still a little bit bit trailblazing, right? And so
Yep.
I show up and I say, we're going to have our first child and we're super excited about it. And they're like, well, that's bad news. And, just really like all the things that today we would think were ridiculous. Like even if
Mhm.
you wanted to say it, you wouldn't say it, right? Or you
Right.
couldn't
Right.
say it. And so I was like, oh, I got to get out of here. Like I have to do something different. I can't like work for these people anymore because they think that having a family is a bad idea, even though they both had, a wife and kids.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, Stephanie, let's be frank. It was
yeah.
still the old boys club of
It was,
dentistry.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the old boys would still love for it to be the old boys club. And
Right.
we come around and we shake things up and and really honestly, like the horrible thing about dentistry for the longest time is like you got these really amazing people in dentistry, and then like women show up and they just automatically assume that we're like kinder, gentler, or whatever. Well, I'm sure we weren't. I'm sure that had nothing to do with it. But then there's some patients that are like, oh, I want to see a woman. And but anyway, so I knew that I needed to either own my own practice at that point, or kind of figure out some other different situation. And so I was like, well, I guess this is as good a time as any. So I decided that that was the time that I would start with practice ownership. So I found something pretty quickly and bought my first practice. I kind of like overshot a little bit. It was a big practice.
Wait, just a second. So,
Oh,
so
sorry.
I gotta make sure I got the timeline right.
Yeah.
So you're pregnant, you're expecting at some point, you tell
Yeah.
the current group, hey, good news, and they say, well, sorry, bad news. And so
Yeah.
then during that same time, while you're still pregnant, you're still expecting?
Oh yeah. Before I had the
Okay.
baby, I bought the practice. Yeah. So
Okay.
I
All right.
know.
That pretty well just tells the story. I think we can stop right
Doesn't
there.
it? I know.
You are
Yeah.
Stephanie, you're a unicorn. Sorry.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
no relevance here at all. No, go ahead.
Well, and I came from, my dad was a veterinarian. I came from a family that owned a business. And so like I kind of understood how much it took and how like dedicated, you were to a business to make it work. And so I think I never really and I think that's a good and bad thing. I mean, I think that, I was trying to put my family first, but I'm sure my family didn't feel first sometimes,
Mhm.
I mean, I would have to imagine that. I kind of quickly figured out, I was probably about 5 years in practice, and I was thinking, if all dentistry is partials and dentures and fillings and crowns for the rest of my life, I think I picked the wrong thing.
Mhm.
And for me, it just clinical just never was anything that I just got super excited about. And I loved the patients, I loved all of that, but I kind of think I wanted to see how the pieces and parts fit together and how it all worked without me. I mean, without me being the dentist.
Well, I can very much relate to that. I'm not here to tell my story, but just to show you where we do, I think complement each other in that regard. I found later in life that I was really more like you. I'm more of a visionary, yet I tried to force myself in, the square peg in the round hole of you're a dentist and you're supposed to be technical and take all the courses. I'm sure you took all the courses, and I'm trying to
Of
become
course.
the best. The back in the day, back in that time frame when you got out of school, it was all cosmetic dentistry, and then of course everything
Yeah.
iterated to implants and all the cool technology that we have today, which is amazing. But
Yeah.
here's what gave me the clue, and I don't know where your clue came from. But you know how a lot of people, everything's about, focused on productive scheduling, block scheduling, and rock, sand, water, and all the different ways people talk about. But I get it, efficiency. I have nothing wrong with being efficient, and you teach that. You have to be efficient in business. But
Yeah.
here's the funny thing. I didn't care. I didn't care when my schedule fell apart. I didn't care. Now you're saying, well, that's pretty much abdicating responsibility as an owner, David Phelps. I mean,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you? Well, I was always doing real estate deals on the side. So that was my addiction on the side. So I
Yeah.
always found I was making up for the time that was missing in the chair. But
Yeah.
normally, yes, we go crazy when we're not, working clinically there. But I also found that, clinical dentistry, I love to get in and get out. So I could do like surgery, I could get into root canals, crown, build up, but give me one of those, big cosmetic cases, or today it would be implant,
Yeah.
cases. It's like drain me, just
Yeah.
drain me. I
Yeah.
could do them, but my gosh, it was just like
Yeah.
draining. So did
Yeah.
you have some of that same feeling?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, like we have 4 children. So I mean, like, I had the first one and 14 months later I had the second one. And 3 years later I had the third one. And so I mean, like, yeah. And then, I mean, when you have the energy to do all of it, you do all of it. But then you sometimes you wake up and you think, why am I doing all of it? So yeah, I mean, and I don't think we're taught to redirect, and I don't think we're taught to question, and I don't think we're, I mean, like I'm a dentist, that's what I am, that's how I
Right.
identify, I mean, that's what I'm supposed to be. But I mean, And I think especially maybe as a woman, I wasn't supposed to do these, different things. I was supposed to just do what everybody else did and fit in. And, like you said, I mean, I was supposed to be the right, I was supposed to be the round peg in the round hole, but I wasn't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I'm curious, I always love to hear, and you mentioned, your dad is a vet, and,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not a vet. I had a great uncle that was a vet, but I'm not really tied to it. But I mean, we have pets, so I have a little bit idea of vets. And well, of course, our friend Alistair McDonald
yeah,
has a lot of experience with vets. So that's how I kind of learned more about veterinary. Is it back in the day when your dad in that time frame, was it
yeah,
still pretty much solo practitioner vets? Because the consolidation, like it's had in industry, has certainly come a long
yeah.
ways. But what was it like then for him?
Yeah, my dad had a partner.
Mhm.
So he was had another guy with him that my dad was kind of the owner, and just they just did a split.
Mhm.
So I mean, I remember when I was young, like I mean, of course, I could do the math or whatever, but like I think they had like a 65-35 split, and they just kept their overhead super low.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, they saw the patients, they had somebody to answer the phone, and that was it.
Mhm.
I mean, like it
Right.
was super, super simple. And there was no insurance, which, now we know is a huge blessing, you
Yes.
know. So, and I think for a while in dentistry, insurance wasn't a bad thing. It's too bad that
Right.
it's kind of become the big monster. But yeah, his practice model was super, super simple. They worked 6 days a week. They worked Saturdays.
Yeah.
Um, they had, I mean, you had to go and feed the animals on Sundays too. So, I mean, they really worked 7 days a week. And they would just trade off weekend call. But honestly, I mean, I just learned good old fashioned work ethic from my dad.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
like our whole family pitched in if we needed to. And, I actually have a daughter in dental school. And so she loves pediatrics, but she assisted, I mean, from the time that she could. And I had another one of my kids kind of did a little bit of IT, and one of my kids did just kind of odd jobs and things. So I mean, like, it's a family affair, and it is, and you explain it that way, that it's something that it benefits our family. I mean, we take ridiculous trips on our points, so
Right.
we might as well, like, everybody should contribute to that, because we get to do really great things because of our business that we have as our family. And so yeah, I mean, it's been such a huge, dentistry is amazing. So many wonderful people. So like, we're so blessed to have the people that we have, and the what we have, and it's really hard at the same time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really difficult. And I mean, patients, almost, you'd hardly ever have a day that goes by that somebody doesn't say they hate your guts. And,
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to see you, but my tooth hurts. And
That's right.
so, I mean, like it's a lot more of a mental game than we think. Right. And that's actually, since COVID, that's actually something that my practice is, we've taken a really deep dive into the mental health aspects of what it's like to be a dentist, and what it's like to support the dentists and be in dentistry.
You're right. COVID made some significant changes in our culture, our society that will never go back to quote whatever we thought normal was. But even notwithstanding COVID, I know I've been out almost 20 years, and I know even though I don't see patients anymore, but like you, I'm around everybody, all our colleagues, and I hear the stories, and I know that they're true, because even as a non-practitioner, but just being a customer and being around other people and seeing how they behave or misbehave in all aspects of businesses. And I think, what is wrong with you people? I mean, no one has any patience. It's all about me, 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 and instant gratification, and I can't get it right now. So there's something wrong with you. And it's like, where did that come from? Well, COVID added a lot to that, right? I mean, just people are just, I don't think, got burned out. So you're right. The mental aspect is huge today. And if you can be a leader and can help your team rise above that, it's a game changer, because I think the turnover, as we found out, has been huge in this last several years. The turnover, the loss we've had. Well, it's not just dentistry; it's medicine overall. I mean, people are just like, I'm out, I'm done. And there's no gratitude. I work
Yeah.
long hours. I take all this risk. It's just not worth it anymore. And that's a sad state.
It's a sad state, because I think we're losing the good people,
Yeah,
not the people that maybe we should lose.
yeah. I always love these conversations. I like to let them go where they want to, and I love going down the philosophical rabbit hole because I think it's important. But I do want to get back to the
I know.
storyline. So I'm
Sorry.
bringing it. I'm
I'll take
coming
down
back.
that Phil's.
I,
Yeah.
I know we got that out. All right, I'm coming back. So about 5 years in, you've got your own practice now
Yeah.
that appreciates women. So and,
Well, I don't know
and
about that,
and
but
and you're getting a little bit bored of the clinical aspect. We talked about
yeah.
that. So all right. So now what? So you're a little bit
Yeah.
bored of it. So and you want to kind of see how things would like work if you weren't like doing everything that as a dentist
Yeah.
does.
So, I mean,
How'd that happen?
one day I'm driving past church with my husband, and I said, "Hey, they're building a building," and church happened to also be our school. And I said, "Hey, they're building a new building there. I think I should put a dental office there." And he said, "You have a dental office?" And I said, "I know." I said, "This is kind of where I want to be. I want to be close to our family. I want to be close to our, our circle of influence." And so I built kind of a satellite practice. Well, the satellite practice ended up turning into a 14 op, 4 doctor, like, 5, 6 hygienist, super, super busy office. And and if I had to go back and do it all over, just so you know, for like anybody that really
Mhm.
wants to like get a history lesson, I would have kept it to a 2 doctor, 3 or 4 hygienist practice with no insurance, in case you're wondering. Like,
Why? Why? So just tell us why. Explain.
because I don't want to be beholden to insurance companies anymore, any more than anybody else wants to. I mean, building big sounds fun
Hmm.
until you realize that the reimbursement is
Yeah.
needs to be as high as possible for you to do whatever you want to be able to do. And we shouldn't get paid what the insurance company thinks that we should get paid.
So just to take off on that just a little bit, you've got 6 practices. So are you out of network fee for service on all 6?
No, and I wish, no, but I wish I could be. I mean, like, we're working in that direction. I don't see
Mhm.
patients anymore,
Yeah.
haven't for 4 years. And so I mean, I would never be in network at this point, but I've been in the same town for 28 years too.
Right.
So I think, I mean, personally, philosophically, if you're talking about, if you've been a dentist in the same area for, more than 10 years, and, you should be able to be out of network. I mean, because you should have enough of a patient base after 10 years that, you have people that want to see you that would pay your reasonably full fee. And, and that's just, I mean, and that's judgment. And I don't mean it to sound judgy, but I think we've got to take dentistry in that direction. We have to. We have to be reimbursed for what we do.
Yeah, you can't go on this downward spiral
Yeah.
of decreasing margins, decreasing margins. I mean,
Right.
no business can do
Right.
that.
No.
You don't make it up on volume. You just said that. You
No,
don't.
and so no, I have some older associates that, I mean, I do have some associates that are out of network, but no, I wish. I mean, that would be my dream, but
Mhm.
it's definitely, it takes time to be out of network, and you have to build a patient base, and it has to be, a certain way.
So this first quote satellite, which was a pretty amazing satellite, but it scaled bigger than you would in retrospect, but still it scaled up. And were there what did you have many challenges in doing it? Because as I said earlier, most of us, people like me, I think I would have found a huge challenge just because I don't have
Yeah.
innate skills, or I guess I could find them, but innate skills to make that happen. How do you how did you make that happen without apparently a ton of friction, or was there some friction and you just
Oh
figured
yeah,
it out?
absolutely there was friction. And you said it at the very, very beginning, like, I made tons of mistakes. I mean, like, you didn't say I made mistakes, but we all make mistakes,
Hmm.
right? And so I mean, it wasn't I mean, it was a different time. Employees were loyal, and they
Yeah.
stayed, and they understood that, we were building something, and it was exciting, and it was fun. We had a good time. So I mean, the rest of the practices were all, I mean, that was a startup, but the rest of the practices were all acquisition after that. And so I bought, somebody else's dream after that. And that's a different animal, right? I mean, that's a
Hmm.
completely, and here's the thing. I mean, anybody that knows me, that, we've spoken about multiple practices before, because people reach out to me quite a bit about it. They know I'm super cautious about it, because it's not a one-way ticket to success,
Right.
right? It's a one-way ticket to more chaos and more headache and more stuff. I mean, you're just going to be like dealing with more stuff. And if you're wanting to do that and willing to do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean bigger and better profits.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of what I've seen across the board. Not everybody, but that's what I've seen. you've been on both sides. You've been had your solo practice basically, and then you've gone to the other direction, and you admit that there is more chaos.
Oh
But
yeah.
but I think again, we have to look at who each individual is, and you've already expressed how you grew up with your family values and culture, and then your own family, and how everything is, we're all doing this together. And so I think that's one way to do it. I think a lot of us maybe don't have, if we don't bring that to the table and we don't start out that way and build that into our family, then I think then there is that tension of I'm trying to isolate my family to have all the quote good life, whatever that means, and I'll go do all the hard work. But then there's all the tension because no one's incorporated in it, and they're wondering, well, where's mom or dad? They're always gone. Well,
Yeah.
you've somehow figured out how to kind of say, well, sometimes if we have to go to the office or mom has to go to the office or we got to do this, hey, just jump in because we're all going, right? Or whatever it is. And we can eat pizza afterwards. I don't know what you do, but I'm just making
Yeah.
stuff up, right? A
No,
little
no, no.
bit.
No, I definitely feed them. That's part of the deal.
You have to feed the hungry bears. Keep them.
Yeah,
That usually
exactly.
works. That usually works for most people. Feed me and I'm happy. I want to go back to something you said a second ago, which again is something that I think about a lot. If I had to go back or felt like I wanted to, I guess, go back to owning a practice again, my probably my biggest concern would be what you said a minute ago was 20, 30 years ago, our societal culture was different. And I'm not here to disparage the
No.
generations. I think everybody's affected. But the work ethic, you mentioned work ethic. I think and I'm saying I'm talking, well, this can have to do a lot with parenting. My boomers like me, if we didn't raise our kids very well, then we're responsible for whatever has happened there. So put that on us. But also I think that unfortunately our society, and I don't want to get political, but the government has created a lot of people who feel like, well, I'm not really responsible. Someone else will feed me. I can get my meal ticket here. I can get, my student loan. Someone else is going to pay for that now. And then COVID was like, well, stay home. We'll just send you checks and you can just order a Grubhub and watch Netflix. I mean, that's what we built, right? So I'm not saying it's individual's fault, but I'm just saying, how do you deal with that today? Because I know it's
I
hard out
agree with
there.
you. I agree with you completely. It's completely different. The culture of work is completely different, and it's it's getting harder and harder to deal with. I mean, it's and I mean, I have an operations manager and I have like an HR kind of hiring manager, kind of a people manager, if you will.
Mhm.
And I love, we're an EOS company, if people know about
Yep.
that. I mean, I love EOS because it provides a lot of structure that visionaries need
Why don't
to.
you why don't you why don't you spell that out? Because some
Yeah.
people may not.
Yeah, EOS is Gino Wickman's book Traction. It's
Yeah.
entrepreneurial operating system, and it basically is it's a way to put structure to your business when we're not trained. We're not MBAs. We're not people that know everything that needs to happen in a business, and so it gives you that structure, and it makes you feel like a smarter business person. And so we've found what our needs are, right? So I need somebody to do operations and schedules, and who is going to be where doing what, and then I need somebody that downloads the people, like, and I when I say downloads the people, like, she actually, how are you doing, what's going on, how are you, how are your patients, how's your doctor, how are and less so with the doctors, but sometimes with the doctors, but just really somebody that just spends a lot of time with the people and really makes sure that everybody is getting what they need, when they need it, how they need it. And we would have not needed that 20, 30 years ago. Like, no way. People show up to work differently. They show up less often. They show up more entitled. They show up less customer service oriented. And trust me, I'm not talking about my organization. I'm talking about the world. I'm talking about humanity. I'm talking about the way that it actually happens. And so and at first, I'll be super honest with you. Like, I just had resistance to that. Like, why do I have to provide that? That's ridiculous. I mean, like, shouldn't everybody just be like I was, where they grew up in a business and they knew the purpose and they knew that they didn't eat unless like the business was taken care of, because that's how we get paid and that's our livelihood. And the simple answer is it's not like that anymore. And so we shifted and we decided that we didn't love it, but we were going to go with it. And it's actually turned out to be kind of beautiful. I mean, we have some really great stories of people that we've loved through a lot of things that we wouldn't. We've mentored a lot more people. We've really just like put a lot more time and energy into it. And I like it. I like the way we do it. I mean, I'm really, I guess I'm proud of the way we do it, you know? And we do have less turnover than, and we do have people that want to come work for us. And we do have, you know, some demand where a lot of people are like, there's nobody, and I still think the workforce is pretty abysmal, but we have more success in that area than I think most people do.
Well, it takes a lot of focus and intentionality. And I think until you cross a certain bridge in your arc of scaling to get to a point where, in this case, you know at this point what you really enjoy and where your focus and your time and your energy needs to go, but also probably it's where you like it to go, I'm guessing, or for the most part. I mean, nothing's 100%, but where you like it to go, and you have people in the right seats that over time you have figured out and built that out. Where do you put your time? Could you just give us kind of an overlay of your week so we kind of get, because you still have all four of your kids are at home, or where?
No, just one actually.
Just one left. Okay, one. Okay.
We're making progress.
You're making progress. Okay. They're actually launching out. Okay.
Yeah, they've launched. I know, two out of college, you know, in grad school.
No boomerangs yet, huh?
No, not really. No.
Okay. All right.
Traditionally, that doesn't happen in my family, but like, you know, I know it's a little different world. So I do vision, you know, where are we going? How are we going to get there? You know, what do we want to accomplish? So we do that on a quarterly basis. We set those goals and where we're going, what we're planning to do. And the visionary really is you really shouldn't get down in the weeds. So that's why my operations manager is very strong. You know, my people person, I don't get involved in a lot of people things unless, you know, it's really, it kind of something really needs to move or something needs to happen. So I actually do, I'm in charge of financial and marketing. So I actually spend some time with the accountants. I spend some time, you know, like making sure that, you know, accounts are up to date, you know, and that's actually, I have somebody that takes care of most of that now. But the beautiful thing about EOS is that it's delegate to elevate, right? And so things that I used to spend quite a bit of my time on, you know, we found other people that do those things. And so I have a couple of marketing assistants that, you know, work on some of that, while some of the pieces and parts to make sure that marketing is a little more streamlined and that happens really well. So most of my role is behind the scenes. I mean, I make it to the offices on a regular basis, but I don't spend tons and tons of time there. I found that with my personality, I'm actually a little bit disruptive. And so like people have actually said, no, it's better when you're not here. So that's great. And my family, you know, we travel a lot. So I've definitely, I mean, I'll take 2 to 3 week vacations multiple times a year. So that's, you know, I've got a lot of time freedom that I never had when I was at the chair. And I think that's why, you know, when people say, I want to do what you do, I think that's what they're talking about. They want some more time freedom.
Yes.
And, you know, so I figured we should throw in, you know, at least part of your, the name of your podcast right into things. I mean, people are looking for time freedom and money freedom and all of that. And I do, we have a couple of companies on the side. So I do quite a bit of real estate. We have quite a bit of farmland as well. And so in addition to real estate, so I do, you know, I do all of that. My husband is a general surgeon. So he actually is super, super busy doing what he does. And their group doesn't have a part-time track. And so even though he's the senior partner, he's got, you know, he either is all or nothing in his role. And so he is all. So he hasn't quite decided that he's ready to be done yet, but he's not too far. He's not too far from that. But we'll see how that happens. But so he does absolutely nothing on the, like, you know, home operations or any of the real estate or anything like that. And so we chat about it once in a while, like pillow talk, but about nothing else really. So that's how I spend my time. I mean, like, you know, and we have one still at home. He's a long distance runner, so we go to a lot of cross country and track meets. And so, yeah, it's good times.
All right, we could do this for hours and it would be
I
fun,
know,
but
right? Yeah.
I promise you I wouldn't keep you that long. But so I got to ask you one more question because I know there's people going, David, ask the question, and that question is this: associates.
Yeah.
I've got, and we could spend 2 hours on this, so we're not. But I just got to dig in just a little bit here. I assume all the associates are any of them on a track to gain equity? Is there any discussion, verbiage? Is there a pathway, or is that just nope? We're not. That's not on the table.
Yeah, we are on a path to potentially do that. I find that my associates they talk about that and then they realize that they're kind of cushy, and
Do do
so
they do they do they really? I
yeah,
mean,
they really do, and we take really good care of them, and we
mhm.
and so yeah, I mean, I actually just had one associate. He's leaving because he has an opportunity to go into a fee for service model.
Mhm.
And I said, "Gosh, I don't blame you." I said, "Good for you. I think that's amazing. If I could get you," he's a year and a half out of school, mind you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so he hasn't been in our area, 5 to 10 years or whatever
Mhm.
benchmark or whatever. But I would say that my biggest shift with associates is that I used to kind of feel like we were at odds a little bit, like that we weren't on the same page. And I shifted how I interact with my associates. And I just decided I love having associates. I love, you know, seeing these doctors develop and really having them in my association, in my organization. And I'm just going to love them first. And I used to
Okay.
do that with patients too. Like, I'm going to love you first. I'm going to come in. I'm going to be excited to see you. I'm going to be happy to see you until you prove to be otherwise. And those like 2 patients a year that you have to send a letter to that you're like, you're not a fit for our practice or whatever.
Yes.
But associates, like I have these really great associates. They're really wonderful people. And I treat them that way, and I think we have great rapport. We have good relationships, and I ask them what they want and what we should do to get them there. And if ownership is something that they want to do in the future with that, but at this point I don't have any partners or anything. But
Mhm.
I'm super open to that. I mean, and I know that everything changes too. I mean, that's a I mean, anybody that thinks that they're going to be doing the same thing in 2, 3, 5 years, they probably won't be, right? Some way, somehow. I mean, we all shift and change and do different things, and so we'll see how that goes. But I'm super open to that possibility. But I have it at this point.
You said you love to see them grow. Who
Yeah,
wouldn't, right?
yeah, yeah,
But you focus on marketing and financial,
yeah,
and so who's helping them grow like clinically? Because that's a we all know that's a huge step. You come out of
yeah,
school, like nothing.
yeah.
You got a license to learn, and there's so much. Who is actually helping them do that? The
They help
growth
each
in
other
yeah,
quite a bit. I mean, they
who is
actually do, yeah, they help each other quite a bit.
helping?
We try to
Okay,
have
all
like
right.
regular meetings between all of the doctors, all of
So
us.
so you've got some that are obviously veterans. They've been with you some
Yeah,
number of years, and so they're helping the
yep,
younger. And you created
yep,
an echelon of elevation within
yep.
the tribe. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I have 2 holistic dentists. I mean, I have, like really accomplished implant dentists. I have, people that are really bread and butter. So, I mean, like, we
Mhm.
kind of just allow people to, I mean, we don't have like, as every single dentist on the planet is different, right? There's no two that are exactly alike. And so
Right.
we just let them be that way. I mean, I think that, that's the most important thing. Like, watching them develop on their own track it's really gratifying.
And then standards. You don't have to go in and look at standards because everybody else is kind of self-policing
Yeah,
or
I would find
so
out.
so you
I would
don't you would find out, but probably by the time you find out, someone's saying, "Hey, this is something going on," and then you would step in and is this salvageable or not pretty quickly? I mean, either right? I mean,
You
because
know who tells you? You know who tells you immediately? The
assistant
hygienist.
hygienist. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, they look at that work really closely, and
yeah,
they're like the first people to let you
sure.
know. And I think I happen to be in a state that has really high quality docs, and I think that we're really fortunate that way.
And so part of, I mean, not all, small part of your success is having enough docs who are open and looking for associate positions. That can be a geographical thing to some extent. I'm not saying that's an excuse for people not to have associates, but that does assist.
No, it's a
Yeah.
huge thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's That's important.
Well, and you would think in Iowa, like as a rural state, I mean, but Des Moines about 1 million people. And so, I mean, it's not hard to find docs that want to come here. So it's a great place to live. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is really fun. Yeah, we could definitely, and maybe on a future time, we'll dig in a little bit more deeper into that, the psychology of the associates, because to me, that's the other piece that is, besides
Yeah.
everything else you do and talk about, we didn't dive into systems and everything else. We didn't have time, but the people, we did talk about culture and people, and you really gave us a lot of insight into that. And that is huge. Too many people, I think, rely on systems and processes and technology to take care of that. It's like, well, wait, it's a people business. So you've got to merge the two, and you can't just let one, take care of the other. They have to merge together, and many times if they don't, that's where people go, well, this doesn't work,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's so true. But I mean, if you expect them to be like each other or like you, or, I mean, we're not creating carbon copies. We're
Right.
creating individuals, and that won't work, So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, a lot of fun to make
Yeah.
the connection. We'll do it again. I'll come back with some more provocations. I'll spin you around and around, but I know you'll come true with some revelations that are important for everybody. So, Dr. Steffany Mohan, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.